G'day guys, today I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks on pack fitting. I'm going to keep it fairly simple for the sake of all bags are different. Day packs and rucksacks, overnight bags, they all have their own little quirks, but there is a few things that tie through all the different types of bags which we'll focus on today to keep it simple. First thing you can do, picking up any bag, is loosening off all of its straps. You'll notice that lots of bags have straps in places that they probably don't need to have them, but we're focusing on anything that looks like it might tension or adjust the load of the pack or affect the fitment. We've got the top load tensioning straps, the shoulder straps, the hip belt, loosen those off. And on this bag we've got the side load tensioning straps or the hip tensioning straps. Doesn't matter what you call them, as long as you understand what they do. Hopefully after this video you'll understand a bit more what each of those straps do. So that's everything loosened off. Side note here, this particular pack, you can adjust the shoulder straps up and down to shorten or lengthen the back length of the harness for the pack. Being a day pack, the uppermost adjustment is generally speaking going to be suitable for anyone with a fairly long back like myself, so I've got mine almost all the way to the top. If you've got a shorter back length, then you may need to slide these up and down to suit. I'll go through that in a separate video because that steps into the larger rucksack pack fittings, but this is more of a generic pack fitting video. Alright, so place the pack on your back. You'll notice in the hip pad there's usually a more pronounced area which sits in the middle of your back, the lower section. Grab that and sit it in the lower part of your back. Pull the hip belts just to keep it secured in the right spot, and then clip your hip belt buckle together. Now some bags you pull the hip belt straps inwards to tension, some outwards. This is an inward style. You pull them both together and that way you'll get the buckle centered in the middle. That's not super important. Some people prefer to have it off to the side so that it doesn't dig in the center. But for the sake of this video, we'll keep it in the middle, pull both at the same time. That secures the hip belt nicely and you'll feel that that's taking most of the weight of the empty bag as it is. So much so that if you take your arms out of the shoulder straps, the bag will still sit there. Doesn't happen with all bags. This has got quite a sturdy frame in it, so it's able to support itself. Pop the shoulder straps on. You'll notice these two shoulder straps here. What you want to do is grab those, pull the pack into your back. Now don't arch your back or do anything crazy that you wouldn't normally do just standing or walking naturally. Just take your normal position, pull the pack in gently and then pull the straps straight downwards to the maximum sort of extension of your arm. That'll give them a nice tensioning for now. Once we've loaded up with extra gear, we may need to tweak that a little bit. So now you've got the shoulder straps and the hip belt firmed up. That's, in any sort of bag, that will do most of the adjustment. The side tensioning and top tensioning straps, once you have load in the pack, will bring the load into your hips and up into your shoulders to make it more comfortable and lessen that feeling of falling backwards with the bag on your back. It's an unnatural feeling unless you hike with the bag every day. So for the sake of explaining these two top tensioning straps, sometimes they're a bit tricky to find. Take those, pull them towards the front of the pack until you feel all the slack taken up. Once the slack's taken up, if there's any adjustment left, pull it in. What that'll do is bring the top load of the pack in towards your shoulders a little bit. Now on this bag, we've also got hip tensioning straps. So grab both of those and pull them in. You'll feel the bulk of the weight of the pack coming in towards your hips. Now that's important because you want to carry most of the weight on your hips so that your shoulders and your back don't get too sore. And we are able to carry a lot of load through our hips as humans. So that's a basic pack fitting for a day pack, which can be applied to any type of pack. You'll find that most bags do have top tensioning straps, side tensioning straps, a hip belt and shoulder straps. And if they don't have a hip belt, then you can pretty much just whack the shoulder straps on and away you go. taking the bag off, it's a good idea to loosen the straps. That way when you go to put it back on later, you're not trying to buckle in because it's pre-tensioned. Just little things like that make it easier to put the pack back on. So loosen your hip belt, loosen your shoulder straps, under your hip belt, slide the bag off and down onto the ground. So now I'm going to show you pack fitting with a little bit of weight in the bag. Now this particular bag I find has a sweet spot with about 12 kilos total weight. So that's about 1.5 kilos for the bag and the remainder weight in the pack. It can carry a little bit more and it does handle a little bit less, but I found that anything below 8 kilograms for a pack this sturdy tends to sort of slop around a bit, and you probably need to drop down to a smaller, lighter weight day pack for anything below that. It's not saying that it can't do it, just means that it's not optimized for it. So here I have a bag of clothes that I haven't taken to the op shop. I'm going to put that in. That's going to emulate a sleeping bag, maybe a tent and stuff. I've also got a 4 kilogram medicine ball, which doesn't get used enough, and 2 kilograms of potatoes. So that should bring the total pack weight to around about 8.5 kilos, 9 kilos, including the pack itself, which would be a pretty standard weight for an overnight hike these days with the lightweight stuff on the market. Bring the pack up onto your shoulders, remembering that we loosened off those straps before to make this easier. Bringing your hip belt in, so we're basically following the same steps as previous. Tension up that hip belt, nice and firm. Now with the weight in the bag, you're going to feel this a bit more. It's going to be hanging back until you tighten the shoulder straps. So we've tightened the hip belt. Just loosen the hip belt stabilizing straps off from before, because they're going to come into their own soon. So getting into that normal back position, the non-overarching, bring your shoulder straps down again. This time, bring them down just a little bit less than what you think you'd need them to be in terms of tightness, because when you do tension the top stabilizing straps, I find that it takes up a little bit of pressure in the shoulder straps. So if you've over tensioned them and then you pull these in, sometimes it puts a bit too much pressure on the fronts of your shoulders. Top stabilizing straps, give them a little tweak. You feel the weight of the pack coming in at the front, and the hip stabilizing straps. That can be done in either order. I guess the hip stabilizing straps first will probably make more of a difference. When you bring those in, you really feel the weight of the pack coming into your hips. So that feels pretty comfortable. 9.5 kilos, 9 kilos, it's not a huge amount of weight, but if you're not used to carrying a pack, you're still going to feel that, so you want it to be comfortable. As you go throughout the day, you'll find you want to adjust things. I always find loosening up the hip belt and re-tensioning it can make the difference. Just muck around with it, play with it, maybe move things in your bag to help shift where the weight sits. I've got quite a lightweight area in the bottom and then heavy stuff in the middle. I find that works for me, but you have to sort of play around with it, find what works for you. The last strap on this bag is the sternum strap. I personally try not to use this too much because I don't want to rely on it, but it is handy if you get sore shoulders and you want to take a little bit of the outward pressure of the shoulder straps, particularly late in the day. Your shoulders will drop as you get tired, then your pack straps will try and roll off your shoulders, so that can stop it from rolling out too much. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the pack fitting video. That's the basics. If you've got any questions or you'd like me to go into more detail, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel and keep an eye on future updates. Thanks guys.